What an absolutely huge win this was for us yesterday. Not just the election in Virginia, which was huge in itself, but the tightness of the race in New Jersey. Wow. And then there are other important referendums and races around the country, all pointing in the same direction. But let's start with Virginia. A blue state hasn't gone Republican since 2009, and a strong Terry McAuliffe, backed by the full power of the Democratic establishment, Obama, Biden, Kamala Harris, Stacey Abrams, everybody kind of going to the wheel for this guy. And it seemed to be tied to the very end. But wow, look at the way that Youngkin has pulled this off. And he's pulled it off by winning the Trump base, but he also pulled it off by winning over suburban voters. He won some Biden voters. And even in places that are deep red, the southern part of Virginia, Lee County, way down south, which went heavily for Trump, but went even more heavily for Youngkin. So this is great news going forward. It shows us, in a sense, the formula for beating the Democrats, and it shows us also that, well, it's just such a huge relief, I think is the right word. I woke up this morning, I was looking in the mirror, I'm like, I look a year younger. But it wasn't just jubilation over the outcome. It was really also just the sense that we've been suffering a little bit of PTSD, our side, going back to the 2020 election. And it wasn't just the election. It was the fact that you couldn't talk about the election. It was the fact that the censorship that kind of prevented our side from communicating with each other. And then the sort of radicalism of the Biden agenda, the open border, the almost deliberate botching of Afghanistan, and then the crazy behavior by these Biden people. I mean, they're acting like they have some massive FDR majorities. They have majorities in both houses of Congress. Let's pass this $1.5 trillion bill and a $3.5 trillion bill on top. Let's get the Green New Deal. And so in a sense, the question in the back of my mind, Debbie's mind too, is we're just thinking, are the American people okay with all this? Because dismayingly, if the American people are okay with all this, then our enemy isn't the left. It isn't the Democrats. It's the American people. The American people are ratifying this radical change, this repudiation of traditional America, this assault on our values, this transformation of our country, the realization of the Obama agenda. The American people are doing it. But no. The American people, and in this case, what a great test case, a blue state, moderate, but moderate-leaning blue. Basically gives a giant up yours to the Biden administration. So this is fantastic news. And of course, MSNBC was in kind of full meltdown mode. Here's Nicole Wallace trying to get her sort of little pea brain around the result, and it's delightful to watch.
I think that the real ominous thing is that critical race theory, which isn't real, turned the suburbs 15 points to the Trump insurrection endorsed Republican.
So basically, yes, this is a Trump clone, an insurrectionist, apologist, and this is what they're doing. This shows that these people have no capacity to digest bad news, no capacity to adapt to it, no capacity to look at the world realistically. And it isn't just Nicole Wallace, of course. Here's Obama right before the election. We don't have time to be wasting on this phony, trumped-up culture wars. Obama's really out of time. He's so busy. He has no time to talk about things like critical race theory, transgender. To him, it's all a big waste of time. We've got real problems to solve here. Obama's rolling up his sleeves to solve them. Well, I think the people of Virginia decided to send him a big message. Now, let's look around the country. In New Jersey, so far, it's a tie. Chiatarelli, 51.4, Murphy, 47.8, about a 1.1 million votes apiece. I think this could go either way. I mean, there are some apparently blue votes that are not counted, but even if Murphy pulls it off, I mean, New Jersey is to the left of Virginia. This is a blue state. And the question for the Democrats is if they're dying in a blue state, what does that tell you? What are the implications of that? Let's look at Texas. In San Antonio, where Biden won by 14 points, 73% Hispanic. Republican John Lujan was just elected to the Texas House of Representatives. He won an open seat that has been a long-time seat held by Democrats, as I say, in a Biden district. In Minneapolis, there was a referendum on whether or not to replace the police force. This is kind of the Ilhan Omar, get rid of the police, replace the police with a Department of Public Safety. Remember this, all the talk on the left about reimagining the police system? Well, Minneapolis voters soundly rejected that proposal. They'd rather have if something goes wrong in their house, we'd rather have the police show up than some, social worker. May I interview the person who did this? May I try to figure out what their social problems are? So we're seeing here, not just in Virginia, but across the country, a repudiation. Let's call it a great reset. It's almost like the country is taking note. The tide has turned. And it's ratifying for us. It shows us that our instinct that all of this is crazy, the Biden people are out of line, is now being seconded by the American people. The malaise of the first part of 2021 is beginning to dissipate. Those of us who began to fear that we're really losing our country, and the American people, if they're not okay with it, seem indifferent to it. The American people have basically said, don't count us out yet.